did it again. I bought another crash damaged vehicle. This time a 2019 Chevy Corvette Stingray 3LT. Apparently the keys are locked in it, but the battery's dead. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to get enough power to get the doors open. So that's gonna be step one. Let's see how bad it really is. Here she is in all of her glory, front end damage and all. There's more damage than I was expecting. I thought I'd get away with no suspension damage, but that's not the case. You see the upper control arm is broken there, so I'm sure other things are tweaked and bent. Front I already was aware of because of the photos, and then coming around to the back, I did not see this damage to the rear quarter and the trunk. Fortunately, I expected the hood to be damaged, but it's not. So I guess the money that I budgeted for that can go into new parts for back here, which are all fiberglass. And then this little spoiler wing is also damaged, but it's just adhered on. That should be easy and cheap to replace. Other than that though, the car looks pretty good. No other damage so far. I will need a steering wheel airbag and a seatbelt. With just a little bit of a rinse, it's already looking like a new car, and I'm feeling a little bit better. All right, here we go. I got the jack points using the owner's manual. Get the jack under, and I think if I can get this side up high enough, I can reach the starter, which I think is just in the engine bay on this side. And then I'm gonna try to get a jumper box to get some power to it. So I'm gonna need a new wheel and tire, and know that. Tire's got a hole in it, and then the wheel split there. Coming in for a closer look. There's the broken control arm. But I look at like the rotor and the caliper. I'm not seeing any issues there. The shock may have a bend to it because there's a little cut here, but also could be fine. I'll have to look. Sway bar looks okay. Actually, I think the damage in here is pretty minimal, besides some cosmetic, some shrouds, and then the upper control arm. I'm gonna keep lifting it up so we can get access, hopefully, to the starter. Here's my theory. So I'm under the car right now, and coming off the starter, I see that stud. I think that's the positive cable running back from the battery. So I'm trying to hook a jumper up to that and see if I can slowly feed power to it. The battery jumper is hooked up only for a few seconds. I doubt it will work, but let's try it. Nope, still dead. Maybe we'll let it sit on it for a few minutes and see if it gives enough power. It's been a few minutes, the jumper box has been hooked up. Try it again here. Haha, success. We are in. I probably should have left the jumper box hooked up, but I pulled the key out of the fob because the battery's here in the trunk and I can't electrically open this. But I think there should be a keyhole. See, I'm hoping there's some parts. Aha! Got a headlight that's broken, but we can maybe take the modules off of it. Probably a piece of the bumper. We can probably pull some parts off of that. Floor mats, it looks like. That's cool. I'm gonna get these parts out, and the battery should be right under here. Put the tire back on, start it, and see if I can get in the driveway. Since the control arm is broken, I put this strap up in here to kind of just hold this somewhat in place while I drive it on to the driveway. I just didn't want the tire to roll back into the fender and do any more damage if that could happen, or rip a brake line. Just checked the engine oil. It actually looks pretty clean and it's full. And now I'm gonna check the coolant. I'm hoping the radiator is okay. There's no hole in the coolant system. And there's coolant. Well, that's cool. Makes me think that there is no leak with the cooling system. Next, just gotta get power to it. We're gonna get this thing started for the first time. Got power, consistent power going to the battery. I'm trying to give it the first start here. Obviously, the airbag has gone off. Let's see if it'll start. Super dead. All right, I got another jumper pack on it that may be able to give it more power. Let's see. It's alive. You know, it sounds pretty good for stock. I obviously took the top I actuated the top and it worked. So that's a win. I'm sure those are not cheap. Now I'm trying to get it into the driveway with a tire that I can't control on that side. So my dad's gonna try to spin it and pull and push as we go up the driveway. All right, the super sketchy tire strap worked and got it into the driveway. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hook the computer up to it and just see what sort of error codes we got. Press scan, let's see what it finds here. You can see some faults. So then if we just click the arrow to each side of the fault, it'll give us more info about it. Fuel pump issue, ignition, circuit low, and control module. I don't know what that is. I think some of those has to do with low voltage. Overall, I'm pretty happy now that it's in the driveway. I know that it runs and there's no big issues. The next steps are going to be to just start taking parts apart, which won't be today. I got some things I need to do, but I'm just going to get the front end taken apart and start ordering parts. But interior wise, looks much better than the Audi looked. It's way cleaner in here. Obviously need to get a airbag. Let's start taking this thing apart and get a parts list going, just like the Audi. The plan for today is going to do some high level things. First off, I want to get the wheel off so I can confirm that those are 19-inch wheels so I can get a new one ordered. Also want to look at the suspension damage and get parts ordered. Maybe pull this fender off, examine behind it, pull some of these front parts off. But more importantly is I want to take off this rear quarter, the trunk lid, and the spoiler. I want to see if my paint guy can fix these rather than buying new ones. I have two options for the rear quarter. I can get pre-owned quarter panel and trunk lid that's black for $1,500 including shipping. However, they cannot guarantee the quality of the paint. Or I can get those parts new, get them painted for $2,200. Or the third option I'm hoping to see if it's viable is to see if those can get fixed and then painted. That's why I got to get them off, but he can't quote it unless he sees them in person to see how bad the damage really is. I cut a piece of braided fishing line that I'm going to use I think to take the spoiler off, because I think it's just an adhesive that holds it on. I'll find out, but I'm thinking if I go with like a sawing motion, I'll just be able to cut the adhesive right off. Yeah, I was just held on by the adhesive strips. So I don't know if that's factory or if this was aftermarket or was replaced at some point, but that's off. Next thing I want to do is pop the trunk. So we can pull that lid off and then it will be onto the quarter panel. I'm thinking this will come off fairly easily. It's probably just a few bolts. That's so light because it's fiberglass. That's awesome. Now it's time to take the rear quarter off. There's some Torx bits bolts that hold it on. I think there's probably gonna be more under this panel for the convertible top, some in the door jamb, maybe some holding it on to the lower, like, I don't know, rocker panel. And then I think the rear bumper's gonna have to come off because I'm sure there's some bolts right in here. But maybe I can peel this back just enough without taking the whole thing off to get like a swivel socket in there. We'll see. I'm gonna try to actuate the top here to get this lifted and see if there's any bolts underneath it. It's only been 30 minutes and nothing is already easy. Since I took the trunk lid off, the car thinks the trunk lid is open, so the top won't actuate. So I'm gonna take the latch off the trunk lid, click it into there, and try to trick it that the lid is on. Even easier, I didn't even hook up the bolts. I just placed this on and pushed down. I think it's clicked in, so the car should hopefully now think that the trunk lid is closed. So turn the ignition on, not turn the car on. Should be able to activate it. Yeah, there it goes. The top is up enough. Yeah, it revealed another 1, 2, 3 bolts or so. So I'm gonna just leave this top like this. We can get to those and we'll pop this off again. Now I think I'm good to take this off and remove the rest of the bolts. Let's pop this door open and see if there's any more. Yeah, there are. There's 1, 2, 3. Then there could be some on the inside here. We'll see how loose it gets once we get these 3 off. It's a little bit loose, but not as loose as I thought it would be. Let me take a look in this arch lining. A 7mm bolt, I think, holding these 2 panels together right in here. So let's see if I can get a socket or something on it just to break it free. It was a battle, but I got that bolt out. It was sitting like this, holding these 2 panels together. So I'm thinking, if I give this a tug, it should come out. Ah, there it goes. Cool. Well, that whole piece is loose all the way around except for right back here. So now I need to look and see if it's connected to the bumper and if that needs to come off or not, or if I can get them from inside the wheel. I've decided I'm just going to start dismantling the side of this bumper here. I don't think I'm able to get to the last 2 or 3 bolts for the rear quarter from getting my hand up inside. So I'm just going to loosen the rear bumper. Maybe I can pull it back. If not, the whole thing's going to come off. Put a little bit of blue tape on here just to protect this edge while this fascia is coming out. That was kind of scary, but I got it out with no damage, so that's great. I think there's another bolt in this housing here. Okay, good news. Bumper is okay. I only had to take off a few bolts. And now I just need to figure out how to unplug some of the clips and things behind this. I'm gonna give these parts a thorough wash before I bring them to the paint guy. I want him to see all the imperfections. I'm just gonna use soap water and a towel. Normally I wouldn't use a towel, but it doesn't really matter if I swirl this paint because it's gonna get thrown out or repainted anyways. I went to put a jack underneath the jack point where we lifted it up yesterday, but since it's on the sloped driveway, I can't get the jacks under it. However, I have access to the frame rail. So I got this jack that's gonna lift up the frame rail a bit, which will hopefully give me enough clearance to get this corner up, and I can get a second jack under there and get the whole thing lifted up. Now that the car is up on jack stands and the wheel is off, I want to get the rest of this fender removed and just see if there's any more damage behind it, so that when I order parts, I know what or what not to get. So I think I got all the upper bolts off. I gotta take this shroud off, the bolts on the bottom, and then I feel like there's a few more hidden, but I won't know until I really just start to tug on it and see where it's kind of hanging up. The fender is pretty loose now. If I grab it, it's a little wobble. The bottom of it is super loose. I just now need to see how it's being held onto the top. Famous last words, I think it's either just that bolt, and then the fender will come off. As I was looking at this damaged piece more, I realized that it's actually glued to the aluminum frame. Since it's fiberglass, I guess really the only way to get it to the frame is using an adhesive. We're gonna be going in uncharted territories because I have never used an adhesive before with car rebuilding. It looks like this whole piece will have to get ripped off. I'll get the new one, you do adhesive, and then you clamp it. And within 24, 48 hours, it should be cured, and then you can mount the fender to it. Other than just putting some cardboard over the trunk, I'm gonna call it a day. Thank you so much for watching, and in the next video, we're gonna keep pulling off the broken parts so we can continue with the rebuild.